Hi, everyone. Welcome to our latest edition of Money Matters. This is a collaboration between United Way Suncoast and University of South Florida Gus A. Stavros Center to provide information on financial topics that you care about and things that might be applicable to your life. United Way Suncoast is really passionate about this to provide high key information and financial supporting advice to folks in the community. This month, we're very excited because we're going to be joined by a panelist of amazing experts in the field, talk about what it means to start your own business and build that business. And we're joined today by our partner at USF, Dr. Peter Trackus.
Thank you, Matthew. So I'm Dr. Peter Trackus. I'm the director of the Stavros Center for Free Enterprise and Economic Education. What we do here at the center is we work to advance the teaching and integration of free enterprise, financial literacy, economic education to K through 12 students and the community. For more than 40 years, we've been providing resources across Tampa Bay to provide teacher training, curriculum development, and the like. And we're happy to partner with United Way. This is our 6th or 7th webinar, so we're happy to do this to provide financial education in the Tampa Bay community. Today, we have a great group of panelists. We are joined by Christy Hattersley, North American Vice President at Global CX0XO Institute, Galene Janvier, a micro enterprise development specialist at Suncoast Credit Union, and Patrick Smith, an enterprise consultant at Career Source Suncoast. Now I'd like to turn it over to the panel to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, Christy Hattersley with the Global CXO Institute. We are a company that produces content and events for the data analytics and IT communities. I've spent the last 20 years helping companies, both startups and enterprise companies, with their go-to-market strategies in terms of branding, marketing, events, and so on and so forth. So I'm excited to be on this panel. Thank you, United Way.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and go next. I am Galene Janvier, and I work at Suncoast Credit Union. For almost 90 years, we have been a not-profit cooperative, really helping our members live their best financial lives and a high-quality financial life. We are focused on our small business community, and I have spearheaded our micro enterprise development program to really help us inject a small amount of capital to your business while also partnering with individuals and organizations to help your business grow through technical assistance. So thank you for having us here today.
Oh, thank you, Jolene. I'm Patrick Smith with Career Source Suncoast, Sarasota and Manatee County workforce. And we provide entrepreneurial classes for the general public can take and learn how to create and launch their own businesses. And I'm the senior workforce education consultant.
Awesome. Thank you all so much today, Christy, Galene, and Patrick. We are so excited for you to participate in this really engaging conversation today about starting your own business. You know, it's for a lot of folks out there, they might be passionate and have an idea for a product or a service. But there's some, bumps and challenges and obstacles you have to go through to begin that process of not just starting your business, but building it. So we're really excited to have a great conversation today and ask some important questions about that folks can learn about, so that way they can start their own businesses or grow them if they're currently an entrepreneur. For the folks that are joining us today, thank you so much for spending your time with us this afternoon. We want to make sure that you can feel like you're part of the conversation as well. So as part of our Zoom features, you're actually able to do a question and answer portion with us while we're asking questions to our panelists. All you have to do is click the Q&A button on the Zoom toolbox thing, whatever, and you'll be able to ask questions that we'll be able to provide to the panelists during our conversation today. So if at any point you have any questions, please feel free to let us know so we can share them with the panelists. But we're going to start off with a really simple question today about, imagine that someone has an idea or a product or a service they want to provide to the community. They want to take this and profit off of it or, provide it to the community. What is the first step that these folks should take when starting a business?
I can go ahead and get started. I would say get some support. And so there are a lot of organizations such as SCORE, such as SBDC, that will provide a free consultation to you at no cost. Your tax dollars already pay for it. And so again, you are not alone. You do not have to work in a silo. You can get support to help you really get the questions that you may not even think about answered, drafting up that business plan. I like to say, follow the PIE formula, PIE, plan, invest, execute. And so that planning piece, you don't have to do it alone. Get support and find different agencies that can help you. And many of them are at no cost.
Yep. Totally agree, Galen. It's a huge conversation. I mean, that you're going to take part in when you're looking at, creating your own business. You have this fantastic idea. You think it's going to be a great money maker. You're all excited. You got to talk about it. You got to get other people's input. But we also say that you got to do some research. So we're always saying, look, your success is in the details. And if you don't figure out the details and you just run forward and launch this thing without actually crunching some numbers, getting your price point, doing some cost analytics, looking at your production, your distribution, logistics, can you pull off the marketing? You want to have the answers to those questions before you run forward and start investing a lot of money into it. So we always say, do some research first.
Yeah, I want to kind of jump onto that too. One of the things that we've talked about in both for small companies, when we're talking to folks who are looking to start a business, and even in big companies, we go back to, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Golden Circle. It's a Simon Sinek presentation. It's on YouTube. It's pretty well known. They talk about the why, the what, and the how. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to put this in here? That's what people buy into in the first place. The what, or the how, which is, what is your value proposition? What makes you different from everybody else? What is going to make this really intriguing to folks? And then the what, like, what is the product or service that you're offering? And then what is this going to cost you? What is the business plan? And figuring out how to do it from there. So start from the why and then sort of work your way forward to figure out, how you're going to do it. And then what this is going to look like in terms of a business for you.
So thinking about the starting your new business, what are some of the steps that someone can look to for financing their new business, and what kind of financing opportunities exist for the new business?
Go ahead and get started. A lot of times, the new businesses are started with capital from the actual owner. And so many times it's through their savings account, or maybe they borrowed from family and friends. The term of endearment is bootstrapping, right? That's how people start their businesses. A lot of financial institutions really wait until your business is somewhat established, at least 3 years for conventional lending practices. I will say that at Suncoast, we do have a micro loan product that will look at newer businesses at least a year old for, again, a small capital injection of $500 to $50,000. You do have some municipalities or different EDCs that may have some programs to assist you. For example, in Pasco County, they have the Pasco EDC that has a microloan program where you can get up to $50,000 for a startup if your business is headquartered in Pasco. So there are opportunities, but definitely start with you and your savings account when you are starting a new business.
3 basic areas where you have loans, grants, or you can form partnerships and obtain some operational funding those ways. Specifically with business loans or personal loans, you really need to have, we always teach on that you have to have your documentation ready to go, when you're seeking a loan. And even with some grants, you do have to have documentation. The days of just showing up at a bank with, an idea on a paper napkin are, I don't even know if they ever exist, but it's long over. You can't just walk in with an idea, right? So you have to have a business plan. You have to have a business model on paper, a business model canvas. You should have a financial forecast out to 3 to 5 years that includes cost analysis, right? You have to have some kind of proof. Those are the 3 basic. that you can get their interest with, right? But then, you know, they're gonna want some other different kinds of documentation. You're gonna need the proof of concept. If you have, if you're already up and running, you need some, you know, money to get it, grow your business. You need to have some kind of proof of revenue cycles, and they're probably going to want to see your personal credit worthiness. And if you have established some business credit worthiness, that is great. We always say, look, once you get your LLC, or, you know, once you're up and running, open that business bank account, get a credit card, start using it and paying it off, and establish some kind of credit worthiness. You know, the time to establish credit worthiness is not when you need to borrow.
Veteran, talk to veteran services, find out what programs they offer. If you're going to go in a different direction and become part of a franchise, look for those veteran franchise programs, look for those women-owned business programs, and so on and so forth. And you might find money that you didn't even know existed. In addition to that, look for the tax incentives too. Like, that's something people don't talk about a lot. It is financing, it is part of your business, and to look for states. For instance, I had a friend, I think he was in Oregon, don't quote me on it, but he had gotten laid off and he started his own like real estate photo business, and the unemployment office actually gave him like a stipend to start a new business. So there was actually a program for him to lose his job and then start a business. So things like that are things you should look for. It could make it really easy for you to find the financial assistance to get yourself up and running really early.
Thank you all so much for those great answers. And you know, you alluded to you know, a couple things that we have some questions to wrap in all together, because they kind of go in sync. You know, Patrick, you had mentioned, you know, LLCs, and you also mentioned you know, documents that people might need. Can you or another panelist elaborate on what type of different businesses that people can start, LLCs versus partnerships? And then what kind of like documents do people require, or people required, such as articles of incorporation?
Patrick named those before. We may look at profit and loss statements. We may look at balance sheets, resumes, because we want to see how experienced you are in the industry, your taxes, both personal and also your business, if you have that. So some of those aren't personal financial statements. Those are the documents that we look for when we are going through the underwriting process for a business loan.
For profit, I think we're really kind of focused on for profit with as far as the LLCs. And so you can be like a sole proprietor is like the beginning stage, right? That's going to be, you know, one step after a 1099er or a gig worker. You go into a sole proprietor, but you're still in with the sole proprietorship, you're registered, you have to pay your taxes, but you're still liable, right? And so when you start getting into the next level of LLC, then you're starting to distance yourself from liability, your personal liability, to your business liability. So if something goes wrong, they can take the business, but they can't take your personal stuff at that level, right? And so it starts off at LLC, then it moves into the S Corp, right? The S Corp is different from sole proprietor. Then you're going to go to your C Corp, and then of course your nonprofits. So those are the basics. The difference would be stepping up from an LLC to an S Corp is going to be where you may have multiple owners, right, of the business, and you may go public, but it's only going to be to just maybe less than 100 shareholders. Where when you get to a C Corp, then you're planning on you're going to go public with it, right, and you're going to generate more. It's a lot about liability and how big you want to grow. If you start off small, you can always, you know, upgrade, right? You start off with an LLC or even a sole proprietor and upgrade as you go along, as your business grows. And it's not expensive. You do need to remember that when you create an LLC, then you have to start paying taxes. And so the big thing is you can do it on your own, or you can hire some, you know, help to do that with an accountant and or another firm that will help you with the paperwork. You can also go on sunbiz.com. They've got all the documents you need there. They have all the directions you need to where, in Florida, where you can go ahead and register and pay. It's not expensive, a couple $100, you're there. You'll have all the forms, but you do have to file annually, right? But also, if you are incorporated and you start paying yourself, you have to report quarterly your income tax to the IRS. Right. And so once you get to the LLC level, you're looking at income tax reporting, estimated taxes. You have to report self-employment tax or, all the employment taxes and the excise tax. Also, you need to make sure that you meet all the requirements for your city, county, and state permitting and licensing requirements. And you have to pay attention to having your liability and workers' comp. So those are the biggies once you get to that level.
Yeah, it's really complicated. The taxes in general can be very complex. So if you have a CPA that you can go to, or some sort of, as you mentioned, agency that can give you advice on how to set this up so that you can navigate it. Because what you don't want to do is start your business, then all of a sudden you have to file your sales tax, and maybe you sold something in Michigan and now you have to file Michigan sales tax or whatever. I'm not a tax expert, but you do need to get advice on all of this so that you don't miss those deadlines, because in missing deadlines, you could be liable for fines and so on and so forth. So I always tell people, when you're starting your business, think about taxes and how to set that up, because each of those different structures that Patrick just mentioned have a different tax code that you need to abide by as well. So just keep that in mind as you're sort of navigating the system. It can be a little overwhelming, but if you're aware of it, you can work through it, you can forecast for it and figure out what you need for cash flow as well to make sure that you can cover all of these bills. And that goes into how you figure out how much you need to sell and how you're going to sell and what your business model works and so on. It all kind of works together. So
I love that, Christy. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I picked up on one thing you said, then you can forecast. Yeah. And so it all really boils down to your research before you actually launch this. Okay, where are we going to go? And some of this stuff really falls under the heading of hidden costs, right? And if you have your successes in the details, and if you're not factoring in all the hidden costs of your business into the price point that you've selected, you can end up with some troubles of not making as much profit as you think you are.
100%.
Yeah, and I do want to add that you're right. Cash projections are just super important to put out there and forecast. And a lot of times we think about growing our business and developing our business, but I would also add protecting your business. And so when you think about insurance or just different trends that's taking place, you may want to, for example, consider cybersecurity insurance, because that's huge now. It's a silent business killer. And so also think about your business protecting your business, and also plans that can help you maintain that business.
I want to this kind of leads us into the whole misconceptions about business type of conversation, I feel like, because when you think about when people oftentimes think, oh, I'm going to start my business and tomorrow people are going to buy stuff from me and I'm going to have $100,000 at the end of the year. I'm going to be my own boss, right? Like that's what everybody wants to do. So like when you actually sit down, you start developing this plan, the reality is there will be a ramp up period. If you don't make $100,000 your first month or get your first big client, don't get discouraged. What you need to do is work towards that. So figure out what that looks like and give yourself a plan that allows you a ramp up period, rather than just sort of jumping in and assuming you're going to have all this money to do whatever you want with and so on. So I always say, what is that saying? Like, fail to plan to fail. So right. Like we keep talking about planning. It's a huge part of starting your business here.
Yeah, I totally agree, Christine. I can't tell you how many people show up at our offices and they're like, well, I've got all these sales. I'm working 60 hours a week. The money's coming in, the product's going out, the services, people are booking services. But at the end of the month, I get done paying all the bills and there's nothing in the bank.
What's the margin? What are you selling on?
What happened?
How much are you making off of it?
Right. And it's like, okay, did you really figure out where your profit margin is? And are there hidden costs that you missed? And okay, what's really going on? And the misconceptions thing is just a real eye opener. We've had people that was, we teach a 10-week course, and within that 10 weeks, I've had some of our students have changed their product and services 4 times before they hit on a winner. And it's because the success is in the details. And when you really start crunching the numbers and getting down to the minutes and the pennies and the hours and, the cost, it doesn't work sometimes, or other times people start really getting excited because it really starts looking good. And those are the fun times, and it happens, and people do go off and become really successful for it. But yeah, a lot of people have this misconception of, oh, the business owner, they've got it made. They just sit back and they just let everybody, and they've got this thing that just generates the income, and they sit back and they've got it easy. And that is the farthest thing from the truth. The business owner has the hardest job in the whole company, the most responsibilities. They work the most hours. Just a lot of it's behind the scenes, and people really don't really see that. But I mean, there's a bunch of other, and I don't know if we're going to talk about that, but running the business is a difficult thing, and you can't just, and even if you do have you hit a home run on your initial offering and the money starts rolling in and the numbers are great, you can't just sit back and let that ride. Everything goes in waves, and eventually that wave is going to crash.
And
if you don't keep up with the conditions of the times.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patrick, for bringing all of that up. And Christy, I do want to, since we're talking about plans, and that P and PIE is the biggest part of starting your business, that planning phase. And really, you should have or focus on, if you're just getting started, focus on 4 different plans: your financial plan, your strategic plan, your business plan, and your marketing plans. I also say have a business continuity plan if I were to add a 5th plan to it. But again, like you said, the devil is in the details, making sure that what is my financial plan? So the margins that Christy talked about. What is my strategic plan to grow my business when I have the low end versus the high wave, right? And of course, taking advantage of the opportunities presented in that marketing plan, as well as the business continuity plan.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things that you both have touched on. And one is sort of kind of making sure you know where you are with your business in terms of how you're executing your plan. One thing we have today that we didn't have before is data. And you can find it in so many different ways. And there's so many different programs that will show you what your forecast is, what your actuals versus what your forecast is, and kind of keep track of that for you, and do it in like a really easy, digestible way. And I'm sure there's a lot of agencies out there that can help you try to get some of that set up, or even just some simple software. QuickBooks is completely different from what it used to be too. But then also the other thing is keeping up with the time. So as the owner of the business, and I think about my journey in my career, I started with a fax machine, sitting at the fax machine on Friday afternoons waiting for contracts to come in. I was doing 100 dials a day, 2 for 10 proposals a week, trying to generate sales. Today, it's all digital. We're doing a lot of LinkedIn. We're doing a lot of messaging. We're using a lot of automation. We're using things that are making the job of sales easier, but also harder if you're not keeping up with what's new. So never be a CEO that's sitting there saying, I'm too busy to find out what's new. Keep on top of those trends of things that are going to make your ability to sell and ability to drive your business easier, because there's new technologies, Chat GPT, all of these things coming out every day. Doesn't mean you have to use it, but keep track of it, because there could be something in there that could be completely change the entire paradigm of how you're running your business in the future.
Those are all great. Thank you, Christy. Those are all great things. And as we've talked a lot about, growing the business and planning for the business. So as you're getting in started, what should be your number 1, 2, 3 priorities with your business? Should you focus on growth? Should you focus on, you've got your plan, but should you focus on growth? Should you focus on acquiring more customers? What in general should be your general priority?
The sales window, right? So, and then post-event, and then upselling and cross-selling. But I would say you don't have a business if you're not selling really at all, right? Yeah. So that's my opinion. I don't know if everybody else would agree with that.
Yeah, and I would say as you build that market share, I would say also uh, focus on the infrastructure because you can scale so large that you don't have the capacity to um, carry out, and that could become a damage to your brand. And so, as you continue to grow and scale, you want to again develop that infrastructure for your business so you have enough staff or you have the systems in place to be able to process the growth that you are experiencing.
I love that, what you just said there. Protect your time. I had a friend, she was looking at starting a marketing business, and she goes, "Oh, well, we'll manage their social media." And I said, "Well, how often are you going to do that for them? And how many clients could you possibly take on if you are creating their content and pushing it out every single day?" I said, "It's not sustainable. And you're not, I don't know, unless you have one client who's going to pay you $500,000 for the year to do their social media, you're going to spend every minute, every hour of the day setting up content and managing this and then managing their expectations." So create a business plan that protects your time, understand how much time it takes for each customer or for each deal, and make yourself as efficient as possible. Because the last thing you want to do is overextend yourself. As you just said, like overextend yourself and then not have time to take on more clients or more bandwidth or more responsibility, or even like grow that account into something that could be sort of helping to sustain you as well. Love that.
Wow. I'm hearing some really great stuff here. And I really think that it really depends on what your goals are too. I'm hearing small business sustainability. I'm hearing rapid growth with like, okay, a startup. So remember, like a lot of startups, their whole idea is to get this thing up and going really quickly, start making a lot of money and sell that baby and move on to the next business project, right? And launch another thing. And so there's the difference between a startup entrepreneur and a small business entrepreneur. Really wants sustainability, grow a solid customer base. Maybe they have a service or products that are reoccurring, or they're going to write contracts and get monthly revenue streams coming in, or multiple revenue streams coming in. And so, yeah, you're going to focus on your marketing and your production and get your infrastructure correct. I'm hearing a lot though about the 4 C's, the 4 business C's here. So you have the 4 C's: character, capacity, capital, and conditions of the time. And a business owner, an entrepreneur, has to keep up with each of those and keep them current. So your character is all about your branding and your marketing. Your capacity is being at the level where you can produce your products or your services and deliver those at the level of profitability that you want to sustain. Your capital is to have the capital, the operations capital, to keep that going. But the conditions of the times is the big one. Keeping up with the conditions of the times. Nobody wants to be the next Blockbuster. Okay.
No.
And we all know what happened to them, right? They had the opportunity, they didn't take it, and they went belly up and lost billions. So, so we pay attention to the 4 C's, and with whichever way you want to go. If you want to have rapid growth, rapid sales, build something with the idea. My boss, he's a serial entrepreneur, he says, and he's opened up several restaurants. And the first thing he says, the first thing you do when you open a restaurant is put it up for sale. Because those first couple of months, that baby's going to take off. You're going to have lines out the door, and that's the perfect time. That's the moment where you're going to get the most asking price if you're going to sell and exit out of business. So there's that exit
Right.
strategy. We have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and you made me think about that too, because when you're developing your strategic plan, you do have to think about the end in mind, right? Is the purpose to sell this business, or is the purpose to make it a legacy business where I, have my kids inherit this business? And so again, what is your exit strategy with this business? What are your goals? So I appreciate that. I will add another C only because I'm in banking. And that's collateral. So if you are seeking a business loan, definitely definitely also add that collateral as one of the C's. But we do look at the 5 C's of credit when we are evaluating whether or not you are bankable. As you mentioned, capital, character, conditions, and sometimes the conditions have nothing to do with how well you're doing. It's just the climate, the market, the industry, the environment, and what's happening in societal trends. And so it's great that Christy mentioned that earlier, being aware of, what are the trends and how can I stay up with my business, not only from a technological standpoint, but also from a regulatory standpoint. What is happening in different legislations that can have an impact, on my business and my ability to thrive in this marketplace.
Hey,
Yeah,
Galene, I love that collateral as part of the C's. And I've just a question for you. So say if I have a new business, I've been in business for a couple of months, but I have maybe 10 contracts out there that I've written with different other B2B services that I'm providing, and say those contracts are for the next 2 years, and they're running maybe $10,000 each. So you got $100,000 in contracts out there. Can we use that as collateral?
It definitely helps your ask, right, and your ability to get approved. But there's just so many different variables. So I do not like playing with hypotheticals.
Okay.
But again, you're looking at how over leveraged you are, right? So the debt service coverage, you're looking at your credit history and your credit score, because that plays a bit in your character. You're looking at the industry. Is it an aging industry or a new industry? So there's just so many different factors that go in the underwriting process as to why a business gets an approval or a decline. But having contracts at hand, of course, definitely helps you out in your business, and also having experience, right? And so if you've never had experience in an industry and you wake up one day and say, hey, let me knock at my credit union's door and ask for $100,000 because I have this great idea and no experience, that's a tougher sell than, hey, I've been doing this for the past 20 years. And, I've started this business. I have all these contracts lined up. So it's just a different scenario.
Okay, thank you.
So on that note, we're going to talk about branding in just a second. But Galene, we have a question from the audience, and hopefully you might be able to answer. There's someone else from the panel. So someone is looking for getting a small dollar loan, not 100,000, looking for a couple $1,000s to, for those startup costs. What kind of recommendations do you or other folks on the panel have for securing those small dollar loans?
Well, we go as low as 500 for a newer business, but again, we prefer you've been in business for at least a year. If not, we definitely look into that industry experience and the 5 C's of credit. But there are other sources like crowdfunding, for example, kiva.org, KIVA. I do not work for them. They do not pay me. But that is a crowdfunding source that you can put your business ideas out there and get a small loan, for, I don't know, under $5,000. Chrissy mentioned this before. There are some very few in between, but you may have business pitches out there. You may have grants where you put yourself out there, pitch your business, and you may win an award for $2,000, $3,000. And again, depending on the county that you live in, your business is headquartered, they may have programs for small businesses to help them with the capital that they need. A lot of municipalities have CRA dollars that can help your business. So you just have to be very resourceful. And again, when you're creating your financial plan, really start digging into the research on how can I build that capital to start up my business or to maintain my business.
Awesome. Thank you. We also got another question and also a compliment that people are finding this really helpful and, supportive. They wanted to know, how, if they're not able, if they have to leave early or how they can get this information in the future. We will be posting this on our website. So sometime this week, you can go on to our website or YouTube and be able to watch a complete recording of this. So to get back to the branding, because, we talked a lot about the planning and, what do you want to prioritize? Say that you have a pre-existing product or a service and you really, or, you're looking at your company in general and you want to either rebrand or strengthen your brand. What should people do when they want to either build out their brands or reassess their brands?
I love this question, so I'm just going to jump in if that's okay. I think I'm going to go back to the why, figuring out why you're doing this, and then I'm going to talk about the how. So we need to talk about your window to the world, which is usually your website, right? Like getting an actual website set up that looks legitimate. There's lots of different WordPress, lots of different types of web hosting services. Get yourself a domain. Domains are not that expensive. Make sure that you own that domain and that you have an email address that matches your website so that people have some confidence in you as a business owner and as your brand. That's just very, very basic. But then you want to talk about how to get yourself out into the world and get people to know you. And that's done in a couple of different ways. The first is done via general website, digital branding, ads, those types of things. The second is through sort of lead generation. How do you drive people to you? And then thought leadership. How do you make yourself look like an expert in this field, an authority, someone wants to come to for advice, things like that. So you want to do these things, but the first place you need to go is to identify where is your audience. Are they your friends? Are they your neighbors? Are they your cousins? Are they in a different state? Are they in a community? Are they a tech community? Are they an artist community? Whatever they might be, you need to identify where they are. Once you identify where they are, then you can identify the vehicle you need to get in front of them. Do you need a digital vehicle to get in front of them because they're in another state and you're not going to see them? Is it an event and there are events that you have to be at? Because if you're not, it's going to be suspicious, right? Or that's where you can do your direct sales. You can actually do business on site. Or is it going to be some other vehicle that you're using, text messaging and so on and so forth? There's lots of vehicles out there. It can be overwhelming. You want to be able to do everything. But when you start as a business owner and you don't have a lot of money, that digital piece is going to be the first thing that you need to get. And then the next piece is going to be, where is your audience and how do I get in front of them in the most efficient and cheapest way possible in the beginning? That's sort of the beginning. Would you guys sort of agree, Patrick, Galene?
Absolutely. And I just want to piggyback off what you said, because once you know your audience, try to create a persona or an avatar of what that, ideal audience could be, because you could go out there and target people and get the wrong type of clientele and spend all your time telling people why you're not the right business for them. And so just being able to, again, create that avatar where you are very specific. I would say if you're just getting started, 1 to 2 avatars, and then really honing in on that specific. Yes, you can get outliers, but though, you definitely want to be super laser focused on the specific type of consumer that you're looking for.
Yeah, on that note, and something that I think is very important, and not everybody would agree, because some people don't like databases. I love databases. I love collecting data, because when you identify this audience, you start marketing towards them. You can tell if you're marketing to the wrong people and they're not buying from you. You can tell which data sets are working, which data sets are not, which profiles are working, which aren't. Like, data it seems like a scary thing, but there's so much that's accessible to us now. So I would say, as you're building your customer base and those that are interested in your product, collect as much information as possible so you can make smarter decisions as you decide how to market your company in the future as well. Sorry, I didn't want to jump in there. I know, Patrick, you probably got stuff to add.
I love it, Christy. You're the expert. I love it. I'm jotting down notes now. Marketing used to be kind of a scary subject for me, but this day and age, marketing is way different than years ago. I mean, now with social media and the internet, and it used to be, when the internet first took off, it was like, if you had a website, it was golden, man. You were instant millionaires and stuff like that. I don't think it works like that anymore. The web, most businesses need a website, but from what I'm hearing you saying, okay, you get your website, that's just where you want your customers to land. Then you have to figure out a way to direct them to the website through your marketing, and that may be through social media, it may be through paper ads or value packs or radio. And you talked a lot about okay, how are you going to get the message? Who's your target audience? That's going to dictate how they want to be spoken to, because everybody, and it really depends a lot on their age. So you profile your targeted customers, you figure out, okay, so if I'm talking to some older folks, maybe they want Facebook, but the younger people are using Twitter and Instagram. When you're marketing your value proposition, you have to speak to them in the mode that they receive the message. You can't expect, if you're targeting older folks, but you're using Instagram, they're not going to hear the message because they're not on Instagram. So you have to talk to the way they hear it. But then the whole idea is to delight them enough at every encounter to create the need for them to go to your website. And your website is going to be where they can make the purchase. And you try to just make that, this is what I'm hearing you saying, as easy as possible for that jump to get them to the website. So the website anymore is not, they're probably just not going to end up on your website by chance. You have to direct them there, and you have to speak to them in a way they can hear it. We like to say that your marketing needs to be targeted, specific, intentional, and purposeful.
I like that.
Yes. And Patrick, you mentioned something else too, that you mentioned they can go to the website and get paid. And so making it easy on yourself to get paid is really important. And I know newer businesses have a hard time with that. They may say, oh, I only accept cash, or, oh, you have to Zelle me. Oh, I don't have Cash App, or whatever the vehicle is. But really maybe investing in merchant services or, different vehicles to actually get paid for the services that you offer. Make it easy for them to pay you. But just working with a lot of small business owners, I have seen that as a challenge where they make it convenient for themselves rather than making it convenient for their consumer.
Right.
I 100% agree. But most importantly, and I want to put this out there because it's something everybody forgets, and I think a lot of people are scared about their data being stolen, obviously hacking, all of that kind of stuff. Put a way for them to contact you on the website. Put your email address. If you don't want to use your email address, get a different domain email address. Like get a Google Voice number, whatever you need to do. But put contact details on there and pick up your phone and answer your emails and check them. And you know what I mean? So you like Patrick said, you have to drive people to this website. And Galene, you said the same thing. You need to make it as easy as possible to make that buying process. We think, at the higher levels, you think about how many clicks does it take for somebody to buy something from you? How many actions does it take? Does it take them meeting you, then going to your website, then filling out a form, then coming to talk, then making a phone call, then you call them? Or is it they come to your website and they can buy something and it's one click, right? Think about the easiest way for people to do business with you. And a lot of that comes down to contacting. If you don't have a form, you don't have a merchant service to take money on the website, make sure you got it lined up. So when you get that phone call, you can get paid right away. Make it as easy as possible. I love that. It's
absolutely
so basic.
Just think about like Amazon. Hey, you go on Amazon, you open up the Amazon, your product, you do a quick search. But I mean, if you only have a couple of products or services, just think of Amazon. You open up Amazon, it's right there. You see your product, you see the description, the price point, and you can pay for it right there. You can order and pay for it. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to look for some kind of service or whatever. You go on their website and you have to search, and you have to search for the product, you have to search for the price point, and then I click off and I go somewhere else because I don't want to have to look. I don't want to play the guessing game. If we always say that, look, if they end up on your website, it's because they want to buy. make it as easy as possible for them to purchase it. If you've directed them and they get there, you're going to get the sale, as long as it's easy for them to do that and get it over with. You don't want to lose the moment.
Right. Time kills deals. That's what we used to say. Time kills deals all the time. The more time it takes for somebody to make that buying decision, the harder it is to get them to make that buying decision.
Yes.
So make it as quick and easy as possible.
Very, very cool. Thank you. This is some great discussion. So as we're kind of wrapping up here, we got a few minutes left. I wanted to kind of look on the other side. We've talked a lot about starting the business and everything. What are some obstacles these business owners can keep an eye out for and kind of look to avoid as they start all this up?
I would say a couple of things. When you're starting off your business, if you do have a partnership, meaning it's more than one owner, make sure you have a partnership agreement so that when things happen or life happens, and so you do not want to lose out on the business because that partnership agreement was not black and white. So I would say that, and so that could be a challenge. Sometimes people say a partnership could be worse than a divorce, the dismantle of a partnership. So you definitely want to consider that. And I mentioned it earlier, but cyber threats are real. And smaller businesses are just low hanging fruit for hackers. And so again, making sure you protect yourself and you're just even aware that that is an issue. I know the state of Florida created Cyber Florida to help small businesses and to become aware of that. But if you're in business, you want to have some system in play to assist you with ransomware, malware, all of those things.
That's really good. I think another big challenge is obviously economic conditions that can contribute to making it very difficult for you to start your business. Now, but I will also say that some of those economic challenges, there are certain industries that are sort of recession proof, they would say. So for instance, there are some companies, people are going to spend more money on marketing because the sale gets harder as you move forward. So if you do marketing services, you might thrive in a recession. When we talked about COVID and you couldn't do in-person events, we changed to virtual events. We had to switch our business model. So keeping track of those trends, we talked a lot about keeping up with it, but looking for the opportunities that are available. And what the trap that a lot of small business owners might fall into is, oh, people don't have as much money, I'm going to cut all my prices and I'm going to cut them down so low, and then they devalue their product or services, and it's hard for them to get back up to those price points again. So know the value of your service, do your research as to what it costs. You may lose a few deals, but you may keep your price point high and create the perception that you're providing a really high level service here that people are going to want to buy into. So don't devalue yourself based on the economic conditions. Obviously, you have to do what you got to do, but I just want you to know that you have value, your business has value, and you need to make sure that you are reflecting that in how you're doing business. So don't be scared of that, even if we are in hard economic times too.
You hit some really good points, Christy. I think branding is if you're intentional with your branding and keeping the value points of your products and service at an integrity level, and keeping it up there is a huge thing on branding, and keeping up with the conditions of the times right now. It's hiring people. The workforce is at an all-time, unemployment's at an all-time low just about, and employers on the west coast of Florida are having a very hard time finding people. Now, 6 months ago, it was supply. They couldn't, we're moving out of a supply of products and raw materials, scarcity, not being able to get it because of whatever the national logistics were. Now we've moved into an area where the workforce is just not there. So if you have a business where you're really dependent on having workers to help you produce your products or service, right now is a really hard time to overcome that. Some of the other ones are trying to be everything to everyone, right? When you're a new business entrepreneur and you're going to launch your business, a lot of people want to provide many different services, especially in the service industry. Say if you're like going to open a cleaning service and you're going to do floors and you're going to do laundry and you're going to do bathrooms, and all of a sudden you've got this menu of different services that you provide. And what happens is that every time somebody wants something different that you didn't think of, you're going to do that. And really, our recommendation is just to keep your services list or your product list shorter. You set your price, like Chrissy was saying, you set your price and you stick to the price, and you don't bring in add-ons, and you launch with, if it's a product, 1, 2, or 3 products that you believe are going to be the winners, right? And most likely you're going to earn the profit with, and launch your business with that. And then later on, after you're established and you've built your brand and your customers trust you and you've got repeat customers, then you can start adding on other similar products and or services with some assurance that you'll probably be successful with those. But offering too many services and products can be a deal breaker.
Thank you all so much. This has been great information. So as we start to wrap up, I have one more question for our panel, but as a reminder for all of our participants, in addition to joining us today, thank you so much. At the very end, once you exit out, you'll be prompted to complete a survey. All these surveys are anonymous, and we use this information to make sure we are creating the best Money Matters experience possible for all of our participants. So please complete those. But I have one final question for everyone. And if 1 minute or 2 minutes maximum. So we've talked about a lot of resources today that folks can participate in and leverage when they're creating a business or growing their business. Can you please provide, some ideas for folks on some of these resources that they may be able to take advantage of?
Sure thing. As I mentioned before, SCORE, SBDC, Prospera, if you're a Hispanic-owned business, and your chambers. And I would also say credit is such a huge issue. So if you're a Suncoast member, we have Balance that can help you with free credit counseling. But getting your credit right and not working in a silo, you're not by yourself. You do have a village that can support you, because it can be very overwhelming if you're starting your business or you're trying to maintain your business.
Yeah. I would say there's a lot of resources out there, a lot of free resources too. You've got the YouTubes and the Googles of the world that you can search through for, and search through the sites of these partners as well to find easy fact sheets as well that will help you navigate it as you start to build your business. But also look at the SunBiz website to see there's lots of resources, information on there about how to file your business license, what you need to do, and so on. So just kind of piggybacking on what you were saying is that look for the help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Those who ask are those who will receive. If you do not ask, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to feel like you're on an island by yourself. So don't overextend yourself. Make sure that if you need help or advice, or if you don't know, it's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to be the business owner and not have all the answers, right? CEOs go to conferences and events so that they can learn from other CEOs, and they're at the highest levels, right? They want to meet people because they don't have mentors at that level, right? So they meet each other to share ideas. You may be a small business owner, but you're at that level. Find that network, find those people where you can leverage their experience and learn from them, benchmark yourself and learn from them.
Thanks, Christy. I would like to say, your local career source workforce boards, almost every single one of them have a business services where they provide employer services and resources and potential funding for training, that you can contact them. You just Google Career Source. We have Career Source Suncoast for Sarasota and Manatee counties. Great resource, great opportunities, and generally, if they can't help you directly, they have a network of employer providers that can help you with whatever services. We have a referral system called Crosswalk, where they have all the different community resources out there that they can connect you with. So contact your Career Source workforce or Career Source Florida, And Google, don't forget about Google. Google is out there. Google is your friend.
Awesome. Well, Christy, Galeen, Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure that our audience found this as invigorating and really informative as I did. So thank you all so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise with the Suncoast community. As a reminder for our folks that are joining today, please complete that survey at the end. And also make sure that you go and register for our upcoming Money Matter webinars. Peter, can you give a little
Oh, yes.
what we're going to be talking about?
September 11th is going to be our next Money Matters webinar, 12 to 1. Very important topic, College 101, talking about looking for scholarships, creating the completing the FAFSA, and budgeting for college. Something that's very important here, and that will be starting. So please join us. And we've got some great college recruiters and admissions officers and finance people that'll be helping us walk through this whole thing.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please have a great rest of your week.